confidences and confessions, triumphs and celebrations. These are the stories of the Bombers.
The final quarter of the 1984 VFL Grand Final at the MCG as umpire Glenn James comes in to bounce the ball. Hawthorn leading 68-45, only 23 points, anybody's match. Byrne and Madden knocked down by the Essendon player, picked up by Williams. Essendon swing into attack. They want a goal quickly. In front is O'Halloran. This is their goal. Baker puts it through. That's what they wanted. And we've got a game on our hands again. Wallace goes straight down the ground. He's trying to find Curran, who can't take the mark. Two Essendon players have the run. Neagle, centre wing. Essendon have decided, OK, we go for broke, and that's just what they're doing. Up towards full forward again. Oh, Bradbury, here's the goal. It's only a few points in it. Oh, those two goals came up in 2 minutes. Bradbury putting through the goal. Is it Essendon's year, 68-57. Walsh punches it well clear, opens it up there for Hurd. Can't trap it. In goes Eade. Loveridge is caught by Hurd. Oh, beautifully done, Essendon. Here's Watson at half forward. He'll go for a run. No, it's a pass. It's a gem. It's Duckworth.
Billy Duckworth.
He's played on. Thompson, Hawthorn in complete disarray at the moment.
This little fella needs to kick a goal. This is the one to kick. Comes in, straightens them up. And there it is, a goal. 5 points the difference. Oh, what a grand final. Centre bounce, 5 points the difference. Can the Bombers go on with it? Byrne tries to come into the pack. It's Williams sending the Bombers back into attack. Up it goes there. Baker taps the ball on. Oh, beautiful play. Goes for a goal. And I think they've hit the front. Yes, they're in front, a point in front. That's 4 goals to Baker.
4 goals in 8 minutes.
With Kevin, you always had to be flexible. He just started to change the team subtly. A couple of defenders finished up forward. A couple of forwards finished up back. And in particular, Billy Duckworth and Paul Weston, who were playing in defence, went forward. And to their credit, they started hitting the scoreboard.
Peter, he's been a real hero, this toughie, as the ball goes out there towards that half-back line. There he is. Oh, he's dropped an easy one, Bradbury. But he's left unattended as he drives the ball out there towards the wing position. Merritt got into the back of McCarthy. Recovers well, goes for hand pass to the blonde-headed Harvey. A kick up there towards the full forward position. Vanderhaar knocked on. There's a go now for Weston. He's put it through for a goal. What a match winner this guy's been at centre-half forward. This premiership is Sheedy's premiership with these tremendous moves he's made, Bob. 11 points the difference. Can the Hawks come back? Bit of fumbling goes on as the ball is finally driven up towards their centre-half forward line. Tapped on by Merritt. They're full of running. There's Weston again with a hand pass. Coming over to Watson. This could be another goal. It is. Oh, they're killing it. And Essendon look like winning their first premiership since 1965.
There was a lot of players really lifted in that last quarter, and you can only win grand finals like that when everyone shares the load.
92.
Donnell knocks it onto Merritt, or trying to find Merritt, but Watson's there instead. They're running right away. There's another one. If he's accurate, I think he's dobbed it. It's Essendon's flag. No doubt about it.
Into this quarter by just on 35 minutes. There's the siren.
Essendon winning their first flag since 1965, and the final scores Essendon 14-21, 105 to 12-9, 81.
Full marks to Weston, a great performance, but all the praise would have to go to their coach. And there they are, there's the coach of Essendon, Kevin Sheedy, receiving congratulations from all around. But what a performance, he shifted players all over the place, put Weston to centre-half back, and what an effort he did.
I remember when the siren went at the end of the 84 grand final, and there's just this mix of emotions. You know, you're elated, you're surprised, you're relieved because you know been aiming to do this. And I just looked around for the nearest player, and it happened to be Tim Watson. And you just grab him and hug him and say, "Isn't this fantastic?" Because this is what we're trying to achieve, and got there.
Kevin Sheedy.
It was the moment every Bombers fan had waited for. 19 years after Essendon's last premiership. Neither Sheedy nor his audience had forgotten grand final night 12 months earlier.
Now, you're going to have to bear with me a little bit tonight because I've been such a boring person at these sort of functions. I know how I can destroy a night very quickly. It's very difficult to be an extrovert coach in a conservative community.
But with me I've got two boys. They've both got P plates on their car. Tonight they stand for premierships, Mark Harvey and Paul Salmon.
When we opened our mouths, it was just dribble, and it was nonsensical, and it was like we just mumbled our way through this interview, and it was embarrassing. And of course, all we get reminded of for the last, 35 years, is that interview.
You know, it's great to see all the boys, the faces. I mean, they deserve it totally. I mean, I even at half time, I knew they'd win. 3/4 time, it was there. They got a lot in them. They got a big hearts, and it was great.
What about the big fella next year?
Well, you know, he's part of it. He feels a bit out of it at the moment, but you know, he's part of it.
And it's a famous interview where I can't put three words together. So, and that footage probably will be played in this series, I would imagine.
I just can't believe we won. It was a great effort by the boys to come back at 3/4 time after being so down by so much.
In the following season, Sheedy and Salmon do a remarkable deal, and the extrovert coach finds life less difficult in a conservative community. In 1985, Paul Salmon returned from injury, but he was terribly out of form in the reserves. One evening, Kevin Sheedy arranged to meet Salmon at Gels Park in Waverley to do a deal.
This deal was, he said, you can't tell anyone, but if we make the grand final this year, I'm going to play you. And I said, what? I was totally taken back by that. And he said, no, if we get there, I'm going to play you, but you can't tell anyone. I said, wow, can you do that? And I remember him saying, I'm the coach, I can do anything I want.
I'm the coach and I'm telling you, you're in the team. Now just get your head around it because you're coming in, and that's it. And he played in the premiership. Played well.
To be honest, I would say the 85 team was the most dominant team that I've either played in or seen, and that goes to say even about the 2000 grand final. The 85 team was phenomenal.
I mean, you very rarely coach them in 85. All you had to do was try and work out which ones you were going to pick in the team for the grand final.
First quarter on the 7 network of the 1985 VFL Grand Final between Hawthorn and Essendon. I think we can expect some fireworks early.
Find the fighters there.
Matthews and Watson.
Look at them piling up. This is the best I've ever seen in a grand final, Bob. I can't recall. Look good. Oh, golly, Peter. Talk about stacks on the mill.
In towards the 10-metre square, Salmon and Mew. No mark for either player. Baker, left foot snapshot. That'll be close. He's got it, I think. That's a goal. Great play.
Hanley taps it on into the hands of Vanderhaar. A long hand pass over to Harvey. This could be a goal. The little fella straightens up and fires. It's a goal for the Bombers again. You can put the premiership flag in the bag now.
Harvey's kick up towards trying to find Vanderhaar. Chance for Billy Duckworth to score a goal, and he does. And Billy's pretty happy about it. He's taking players down there and rebounds to Watson. He has a ping at the goals and has put it through for another one. It's academic, of course.
Barrett taking his time. Lets it go. And that is a goal. It's goal number 5. So it's 22 goals, 46 Essendon.
Down under it in the back. Picked up by Walsh. Scoops it out. In fact, almost throws it out to Welshaw, but the umpire, that was a throw. Clark, long kick looking for Vanderhaar. Duckworth. Here's hard. Hit him on the head, the ball. Got a good turn of speed. The little redhead has a shot at the goals again. He's done it. Great goal.
Williams going for goal number 2. And of course, a big chance to put him 72 points in front. And that's right. It's right through the middle for a goal. He's driving it up to Big Salmon. Can he grab this one? The pack fly. There's too many. There could be Harvey kicking this one. It's a goal. points. He's fourth. And the Siren Song to win the game. And Essendon the premiers for 1985, winning 2 in a row.
Back-to-back premiers, and rival clubs came circling the Bombers.
Coming out onto the ground. Is it his last game?
Mr. Skase and Mr. Edelson come along, private ownership of the Sydney Swans and also the Brisbane Bears at that stage, and then they started making big plays for our players and our coach.
I'll get a box in there.
Dr. Edelson was looking for players. Back in end of 85, he said, what about $100,000 upfront cash to sign today and $450,000 over 3 years? So over $500,000 back then. You're very tempted. It's a great offer, but in the end, my mother said it. He said, you can take the boy out of Essendon, but you can't take Essendon out of the boy, and maybe that's true.
Despite the lucrative offer, Madden chose to remain a one-club player for life.
The applause for their coach, Kevin Sheedy.
And despite many rumoured offers, Sheedy stayed at the Bombers for another 22 years.
It's wide.
Nice kick from fullback. Danaher from behind. A glorious mark.
Windy Hill is a ground that stores so many memories.
Wow, it's a battleground. I still can smell the liniment.
Playing here, a 30,000 sold out ground, it was touch and feel. You could hear everything,
Towards the goal.
you could smell everything.
Line up the goals for about 35 metres. And magnificent goal by Watson.
Watson's been a star. He bounces the ball.
It was stack, pack and rack, whether it was outside or inside. There was no room to move. There were aftermatches. You could go to an aftermatch and have a beer and a catch-up with your teammates, but also your opposition and the umpires. And, chew the fat. It was simple, it was innocent, and it was just good fun.
I remember the Peanuts guy. He used to walk around and say peanuts, 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 and all those things you remember. I don't know why.
The kick is a good one.
But the Raw was like there was 90,000 people there.
A goal.
My mother in the late 80s said, Kevin, why can't you get all the boys to Essendon?
Mum always wanted the 4 boys to play together, and that was the catalyst of Chris and I coming to the Bombers. And she's picked up on that, drove that brilliantly.
I said to Mum, it's not that simple. But she's the romantic, she's the idealist. I saw the opportunity. It taught me into a comeback.
She mentioned to me one day, do you ever think the 4 boys will play together? Now that gave me a real insight into what she was thinking.
The 4 Danaher brothers created history when they all took the field at Waverley Park for the last home and away game of 1990.
Fantastic effort for that family. There's 7 sisters and 4 boys, and they're all playing AFL, and they're in the middle of basically New South Wales, so it was a pretty good effort. And so we made Mrs. Danaher the Woman of the Year, the AFL Woman of the Year, when they started celebrating that.
Of all the people I've sort of met, I think the Danahers are probably the most outstanding family I've ever met anywhere.
Despite coming back from 3 knee reconstructions, Neil kicked 3 goals and 4 behinds in that match, but it was to be his last game.
I probably made a mistake, and I don't like to mention it, but I reckon my mistake is I didn't pick Neil in the 1990 grand final. I reckon that's one of my worst mistakes as a coach.
Now it's a long one. Over towards Neil Danaher, in a bit of trouble.
I didn't think we were fast, and Neil wasn't fast after 3 knee reconstructions, but he's a smart player, and I reckon he would have quelled that tension that was in that grand final after the Raw.
And usually this does happen early on in a grand final, not at the quarter-time break.
Neil was a great player. You know, we all know about Neil Danaher, just a quality person, magnificent footballer, and bad knees.
He easily is as good a player as James Hird and Tim Watson.
The full forward position, but a good mark to Danaher.
He just didn't get the chance to be able to play as well.
Throughout his coaching days, Sheedy relished the mind games with his rivals. In the 80s, he and David Parkin were forever moving the pieces, trying to outfox each other.
He was by far the most difficult coach for me to counteract.
He's a very educated, planned, written approach, detailed. I'm probably a rock and roll coach and roll it the way I want to go.
You could never ever predict what he would do prior to the game in terms of setup and method, that sort of thing. And during a game, he became the most difficult coach because of the unpredictable nature of player moves and ball movement.
For the players out there this afternoon. Great mark. That could be the mark of the day.
We played them 12 times for 11 losses. We got 1 out of 12, and that showed the dominance of Kevin as a coach in that period with Essendon against Carlton.
And the super coach looking on.
In 1992, Dennis Pagan coached Essendon's reserves to a premiership.
The reserves only got beaten once for the year and won the premiership, but people like Joe Mercedes, Mark McCurry, Jimmy Hurd, Paul Hills, Ricky Olorenshaw, there's probably 2 or 3 others, played in the reserves grand final and went on to play in Essendon 1993 grand final. So it was a wonderful time to be involved in football, and how lucky was I to be able to be Kevin's assistant.
In 93, Pagan was appointed head coach of the Kangaroos.
Kevin Sheedy has pulled another one. It is unbelievable, this man. What lengths will he go? He's applied the cold spoon treatment to the weather sock.
Windsock's good. There's a lot of stories of that, but one of the major stories that everybody forgets is the brand on it hadn't paid their account, so they made me tie it down.
To listen to Dawson, Dawson to me he'd be a pink marshmallow, Dawson, and Miller would be a white marshmallow. I mean, that's about where I see those two softies, you know.
And the marshmallows are flying out here at the moment, Bruce. A few are hitting Kevin, but luckily they're very soft.
The marshmallow stuff? No, the only part I had was cleaning my front lawn the next morning with all marshmallows people had thrown over the front fence. Kevin made it all up. It was a very good tactic, and he sort of thrived on it.
We got 72,000 in the game. No one ever wrote and said thanks, except the confectionery industry sold out.
He's a big man, Sheeds. He'll be able to take all of this.
There's a line, right? There's a line down the middle, and this side's insanity and this side's tuners. And he walks it like this.
This country's getting soft. When I was playing, it used to be rotten fruit. Now it's marshmallows.
They still can't get the goals on the board, though, can they, Lou? McClure from the back. Skipping over Wells. Watson racing into goal. Shoots. And has put it through. Oh, what an opportune comment. Listen to the crowd. They're doing as they like. Watson steadies. Turns on a threepenny bit. A long shot at goal by Watson is another one.
After Essendon lost the elimination final in 1991, Tim Watson announced his retirement.
I was worn out. I felt worn out physically and mentally. I'd had enough of listening to him. It was almost like I was just tired of listening to him, and he understood that as well.
Well played, O'Connor. Here's Hurd. Sees daylight. Goes for it. Kicks a run. Look at that.
Test Hurd. Snapshot by James Hurd. That is the play of a class football.
Round 1 in 1992 saw the debut of a boy who had been the number 79 draft pick and whose grandfather, Alan Hurd, had played in Essendon's 1942 premiership team.
Has he done it? He has.
I was picked as an emergency. It was a Sunday at about 11 o'clock on Saturday night.
Sheeds rang me and said, you're in, you're playing, and then hung up. I didn't know what time I was meant to be there, I didn't know what I was meant to wear, I didn't know what was going on, but anyway, I worked it out and turned up at Waverley at 12 o'clock and played the game and got dropped the next week.
Goes for another one. Oh, James, you're a little champion, you are. Jimmy boy.
It was my boyhood dream, was to play for Essendon. That was, some people want to be travel the world, some people want to do different things, but really the only thing I wanted to do was play football for the Essendon Football Club.
Gets it to half forward. Prescott tackled by Hurd. Wanganeen Hurd. You back him. Here's a gem.
Injuries prevented James from showing his best, and he was very nearly delisted.
I clearly remember a lot of people in the room thinking that Hurdy wasn't going to be good enough to be an AFL player, and Sheeds was clearly the last person to give his opinion, and he said, "You never sack the grandson of the man whose name's on the social club."
I think my grandfather would have had something to do with it if he hadn't have put me on, but my grandfather was a very, very loud figure in the Essendon Football Club, and it was certainly, I think Sheeds might have been scared of him, so that's maybe why I was able to stay on the list.
In 1993, there was a new breed of baby bombers, and Tim Watson was wooed into a comeback.
It was kept secret. For 6 or 8 weeks he trained on his own with Danny Corcoran to get into a position where he could be confident that, redraft me.
For him to share his knowledge and experience to the younger guys like myself and the other Baby Bombers group was absolutely awesome to have him back.
Forward zone, Watson got the mark.
She'd said, well, Timmy's come back, and for me personally, I was unbelievable because I was a lifelong Essendon supporter, and I used to have number 32 in my duffel coat back in the day.
40 metres is the distance, a kick on its way, and it's a good goal kicked by Timmy Watson.
Yeah, 93 became one of the most enjoyable years I ever played in football.
Mercury, no, Watson gets around, forced to kick with the left, it slews off the side of his boot. Centre half back for Adelaide, very important possession. Watson's gone, Watson goes for goal.
For me, Tim Watson coming back in 93, and guys you had round you, Mark Harvey, Mark Thompson, Gary O'Donnell. For me it was probably more those guys than really the Baby Bombers. Even though we needed them, they needed us.
Paul Salmon, Gary O'Donnell, and Tim Watson were able to bridge that gap between the older and the younger players. And the reason Tim was so important is everyone just had revered Tim Watson. I mean, he's still a Tim Watson, the legend. He'd come back, he wasn't the same player, but he set training standards, and he actually explained what Sheeds was like to us a little bit, because initially we'd only been there 2 or 3 years and didn't understand Sheeds. So he'd put a bit of humour into it and maybe take the edge off Sheeds in certain areas, which I thought was very important.
The team in 93, so many times we came from behind, and that was to do with Sheeds being the positive person he was.
Territory and in front.
But also young kids not knowing how to lose as well. Hurd, Mercury, Fletcher, Olaranshaw, Kelthorpe, Masiti.
Kicks from a standing start. It's going close. It's coming back. It's another one.
One of his speeches was about experience and about older players, and the fact that the reason he loved playing younger players is that younger players weren't scared. They weren't scared of failure. Whereas if you had too many experienced guys on the team, they were scared of failing. And he just gave us so much confidence. He, David Whedon, Danny Corcoran and Neil Danaher, as a coaching group, basically gave us a licence to play within a reasonably tight bubble. And if we stepped outside that, if we played in there, they praised us. If we stepped outside the bubble, we got a massive whack. And I remember David Whedon, who was the master tactician and the professor, he called Mark Mercury and I into his office midway through 93, and he said, do you know the difference between flair and lair? And he put up flair on the board. We said, oh, not really. And he said, well, flair is, when you go out and you play with creativity and you do the right things, but you play with your own mindset, which is great. And he said, we love flair at this footy club. And then he crossed the F out and he said, know what a lair is? And we said, oh, not really. So it's what you two are at the moment. So unless you pull your heads in, you'll be going back to the reserves.
For Salmon, he does well.
Coming up, the shootout.
Magnificent stuff by Salmon.
The sweetest win of all. And the man who changed Australia.
Still going. 30 metres out.
This isn't just the Prime Minister's problem. This is an Australian problem.